Okay, so this is going to show a really easy and beautiful bike ride that's along one of our favorite routes. Super easy to get to, although it takes a little bit of time because it's on the sort of far southwest side. So we started off there at Saganashkee Slough, which is just worth a visit in and of itself. It's got some really amazing birding, tons of great raptors. And then we're heading directly from the Saganashkee Slough East parking lot, which is where we started, along the CalSag Trail. So this is just all heading kind of east on the south side of the CalSag Channel. And we've seen a lot of really amazing birds here. Juvenile peregrine falcons, tons of hawks. There's bald eagles along the river and osprey. And you can see it's a pretty popular trail. This was a Friday afternoon, though, so good time to be out and about. It's also pretty shady, as you can see. So if you're trying to avoid the sun, there's a lot of really shady areas here as well. So this kind of goes along through some, beautiful wooded areas. This is a parking lot that if you can't access the regular Saganashkee Slough lot you can use. It's run by the city of Palos Heights. Then here we are actually going along just a road, and this is actually just called CalSag Road. So the trail just goes along the road. It's not the most picturesque area. There's some really good trail maps here. We're consulting one, obviously. And then what you end up doing is the trail itself kind of zigzags a little bit, but it's relatively easy to follow. And here we're kind of cutting over to this other trail called the Lake Catherine Trail. Really pretty, goes through some very nice little additional residential areas, pretty nature center. That was 2 huge swans with their cygnets, which were almost full grown, which is something that we'd never really seen before. So here you'll see there's a really clear place to leave the Lake Catherine Trail onto 76. And now we've just crossed over into the community park. So you just stay on the west side of the street, taking 76th Avenue south, and you cross into community park. You'll see a big monarch statue here, which is really kind of a good milestone. But at this point, we've already passed through the park, and this is now in the main part of what I think is called the Tinley Park Trail. So you'll see it really is just going to run under these power lines, and it doesn't look like it would be picturesque, but it's actually amazing for seeing, again, a lot of raptors, a lot of other birds. We saw a beautiful hawk along here, a beautiful juvenile hawk, which instead of having you watch the bike sit there, I just thought I'd show a couple of pictures of them. So we were there for a couple of minutes looking at this guy. It's very sunny along this area. So again, if you're trying to avoid the sun, maybe go on this part like later in the day. And you'll see that there's this whole section of this Tinley Park Trail that's got houses that just kind of back up to it, which is really kind of lovely location for them. They just get to sort of have their cookout right on the side of the trail. But here we just crossed over this big crossing, big intersection at 131st and 76th. And this is going to be taking us eventually to the Turtlehead Lake Trail. And you really just kind of keep going straight. We were consulting here because there is an area of the trail that's being destroyed and a new part being built. It's in part because of some waterworks that they're doing. So the actual part of the trail that you're going to see us take right now is going to be supposedly demoed sometime at the end of 2020. So this might be one of the last times that we'll actually be able to video it. So if you go and do this route, this particular part of it might not be available to you. But it may be that COVID is putting some of that off. It's kind of hard to know. So regardless, they're both really pretty, but this route takes us closer to like the backside of Turtlehead Lake, and we've actually seen a lot of turtles there. So that makes it actually really fun. So you can see that they're kind of not keeping up this part of the trail that well anymore, I think because they're just planning to demo it relatively soon. And then here's a whole new part. It was so nice and comfy to ride on as well. You'll see that there's going to be a couple of intersections here, but they're not really too bad. They're all pretty easy to cross and really well protected in the lake. So what we're going through now is it's still called the Tinley Creek Trail, I believe, although it's not always really well marked. But what we're going through here is something called Tinley Woods, Burr Oak Woods, not Tinley Woods. And there's a bunch of different forest preserves along here that kind of just merge into each other. We're going to be crossing 143rd and Harlem. That actually might have been that last big intersection that we crossed. But you'll see there's a lot of mileage here that's really, here's the big crossing. That's really nicely protected without having to do a lot of crossings of big intersections. So here we go by something called Camp Sullivan, and pretty soon we're going to be coming into Bachelor Grove Woods. And before we get too far away from it, we're actually not quite to it yet in this part of the video, but I'll just say a little bit about it. It's a really popular place for folks to go, especially around Halloween. It's often considered the most haunted place in Illinois, one of the most haunted cemeteries. It's really small. It's been pretty heavily overgrown, though I think some people are trying to keep it up a bit. And we've been there a couple of times. It's actually kind of right on across the road to the right from where we are now. Also some great frog ponds. We're right now riding along 143rd, and we're going to be coming up to the biggest parking lot near this, which is called Rubio Woods. And then we're going up through Rubio Woods itself. We didn't cut through the parking lot. We're taking this slightly longer route around. Again, coming on up through Rubio Woods here. And then we're kind of coming up through, the reason we're having this conversation is we'd seen a bird, and we kind of went past it because we thought there'd be a better place to see it from the other side of this field, and it turned out wasn't much of a great view there either. And then we came back around and figured out that actually it was just a very convincing blob of leaves. So it was really cool. You can't really see it in this image here, and this would have been a good place to insert a picture of a bird instead of just the grass blowing around, but there wasn't too long of a wait, fortunately. But there was a lot of wild blackberries and raspberries growing, so ate a few of those. That was nice. They're not really super ripe yet. Lou was like, you should leave them for the birds. But so this is kind of coming up through then this whole area that's called Cooper's Hawk Woods. It's just above Rubio Woods. There's this whole additional section to kind of come around through to the north. And it's really, really pretty. There's all these different kind of small forest preserves, and not all of them are really well signed, which is why there's a few times in here that I'm actually not sure which one we're technically in. But if you stay on this main bike path, it's going to take you through all of these. Here's a crossing of, I believe, Ridgeland. That was what that last big street was. And then in just a minute here, we'll be then back into that big, long straightaway again. And this is going to be, I believe, crossing 135th. And again, some really nice, nice wooded areas here. Not so bad that you get mosquitoes, but good enough to be sheltered from the sun. And then I believe that was crossing Harlem. And then here we're back into that big long straightaway again, the Tinley Creek Trail that just follows those power lines. And if you look at it on the map, you'll see kind of just coming down south of Palos Heights, it really is just this big long straightaway. We stopped here again to look at the same, I think it was the same juvenile red-tailed hawk that we had seen earlier. We have a couple of really nice photos of that too, which I will post elsewhere, and kind of just sat there and watched him for a bit. He was really beautiful and kind of behaving unusually, as youngsters often do. And you can see how these houses here, some of them are just really, right along, I mean, that's all power company stuff, but some of these houses are just, really bordering the path in this greenway. And if you don't mind living near a bunch of power lines, it's kind of lovely, actually. There's some of the construction that's causing so there's new water mains going in. That's part of what's causing the rerouting of the trail further north. That's Palos Hospital on the left, still on this Tinley Creek Trail. We're just basically heading straight north. There's a little section that you have to go over some grass. It doesn't take very long. Here we're back through Community Park again. I think you'll see the butterfly sculpture really briefly as we come out of it. Might have been going a little too fast for it. And we would have just passed it there. And now we're heading back toward Lake Catherine. Some really nice little condos back in there. This is where we saw the swans earlier. And now we're officially back on the Cal-Sag Trail. So you can see there's a lot of work going on here as well. We did have to go by some construction trucks. Still a very industrial area. The Cal-Sag Channel is a working waterway, and so you'll see a lot of boat traffic there, but the birds don't really seem to mind it at all. And then the trail does take you back along Cal-Sag Road again for a little bit. So you're on that Cal-Sag Trail the whole time, but sometimes you're right next to the channel and sometimes you're next to this road. But there's really not too much time on this road. And the trail is really well kept there, so that's a nice little bonus of that. And now we're back on the main Cal-Sag Trail heading towards Saganashkee. And you can see it's, there's a lot of people using the trail, but it's not super busy. It was easy for us to ride next to each other some of the time, which is not that common on some of the other trails that are closer to the city. And you have the waterway to your right, and you can see it almost the whole way. So you really do get some good views across at raptors and kingfishers and waterfowl, and we've seen first ever orchard orioles near here, and there's tanagers and catbirds and all kinds of great migrants too when we get a little closer to fall. So here we're going to be coming through the last little part of the trail. And that was actually I just cut off my voice a little bit there, but that was literally the very last part of the trail. And you can actually see here the parking lot and the sunset view. So that bridge basically is just the approach into the parking lot. And because this has not been a parking lot that's been open during most of COVID, it was, I think, really nice for everybody to be able to just come out. There was probably 10, 15 people fishing. There was a guy just sitting there playing music, drinking a beer. Lots of people just hanging out and enjoying this view. We've never seen a bad sunset from Saganashkee. So it's really stunningly beautiful. It's beautiful any time of year. There's an osprey nesting platform that you can actually watch from the parking lot, so you can get great wildlife without even getting out of your car, but it's well worth it to get out of your car here and check out the Palos Forest Preserves. They are beautiful. The signs are great, or the signage, I should say, is great, and folks have done a really great job with these trails, so it's worth getting a little bit off the beaten path and checking them out. Enjoy! Thanks, too, for your patience with the technical difficulties of this video and the other one that I posted a few days ago, just trying to figure out new video editing software and how to do a good voiceover without dragging on too long. So thanks for your patience.